of Adjustment has the ability to approve things listed in those third columns. And there are a few others throughout the ordinance, you know, as you read through. But say I'm a homeowner and you know, I have a house and I want to build a garage and I want to put it a little bit closer to the side yard than what I want. There's the ability for the Board of Adjustment to reduce those setbacks listed below by up to 50%. Again, if application is made, the neighbors don't care, and you're not going to really, you know, hurt anybody else by doing that. They can take that to the Board of Adjustment, who can consider that request. They don't have to. These aren't things that are givens. The Board of Adjustment wouldn't automatically have to approve any of the things listed in here.
When you said like setbacks up to 50%, did you realize that you were limited, Jim?
Yeah.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know if everybody on your board realizes what they're.
Well, we go by the code.
Yeah.
How many feet from the left or right or each side.
Okay.
You know, or any of the things listed in here. You know, for example, in this situation, if somebody wanted to have, let's say, a lawyer's office in the basement of their home. You know, they have a home, and if they wanted to bring that to the Board of Adjustment, says, you know, that's allowed. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to provide for parking so that the neighbors aren't inconvenienced. If, you know, we've talked to the neighbors, and by doing this, we're not going to destroy any of the property values in the area. And the Board of Adjustment looks at it, the neighbors look at it and say, this is reasonable. The Board of Adjustment could approve that. Now, there's a procedure in Section 3 for the Board of Adjustment. It starts on page 3.3. As far as special exceptions, it's Section 3-02.09B, which is the procedure for exactly how the Board of Adjustments should handle those requests for special exceptions. People should put in an application. They need to have a hearing and provide notice, which would be the parties of interest, generally be the neighbors, the person who applies, the city council, whatever. They'd have that hearing, and then the special exception would, or the Board of Adjustment, excuse me, would either approve or deny, or put, the other thing they can do, they can also put some conditions on that. You know, for example, in that lawyer's office example, they could say, well, you want to do this, but you're going to have to provide some parking and put in a handicap ramp, or, you know, whatever they determine is reasonable to approve that special exception. Now, the interesting thing about that is, too, that's a special exception. That doesn't become law on that property or anything like that. If the use changes, that isn't necessarily grandfathered into everybody forever. You know, that lawyer closes up shop, and 10 years later, another lawyer comes in and says, yeah, office is all there, I want to do that again. They're going to have to go back. A special exception doesn't become law. It's just exactly that. A special exception in that case for that property owner on that piece of property.
For that property owner.
For that person.
That's
if it
correct.
changes, if the property changes hands, they have to have
That's correct.
go through the process.
That's exactly
Because
right.
I've heard people say, well, I want to buy that property because this is grandfathered in.
Right.
Well,
If it's a special exception, it's something that stays with the property owner, that use at that time.
See, I'm disappointed that we only have one person here from Board of Adjustment to hear this.
Well, yeah.
How are you going to
And
convey
Jim
this
sees
message
it.
to the rest of
They
them?
should be here.
Yeah.
I learned about it
That's what
already.
I'm saying, Jim.
One question I have,
Sure.
just off the record, but 2 minutes ago you meant we make an adjustment on side lot. Say it's 10 feet, maximum we can go is 50%?
Yeah, the maximum you could reduce that, if the requirement is 10 feet, you could go down to 5 feet.
Well, sometimes it is 5 feet. Here a while back we went less than that on a garage.
Five on one side and
Yeah,
ten on
I
the
know which
other.
one you're thinking.
Now, the other thing in that situation, and we'll come back to that, just so we don't distract from the you know, the special exceptions.
You're talking about Larry Morris. Just I'll jot it down, then we'll remember.
Because there's another
that.
section in there that deals with side yard
Okay.
setbacks.
Okay.
That doesn't necessarily go through special exceptions.
Okay.
But in any case, the final power of the Board of Adjustment is to grant a variance. Now, over the years, and in 99.99% of all communities, I would say at least that same percentage of variances that have ever been granted over time have been illegal and would not hold up in court if somebody decided to challenge it.
That's right.
A variance has been defined over probably the last 75 years as a very, very limited situation where a variance would ever apply. And that's where I want to, for a minute, go to the blue section, which talks about powers of the Board of Adjustment, which does talk about special exceptions in here. Let's see. It starts on the first page. The final power of the Board of Adjustment is the authority to grant variances.
Grab handouts.
And the thing about it is that variances are just so limited in scope, which is why we've put the ability to grant those special exceptions in there. We call them something different. In a lot of ways, they're exactly the same thing, other than they are actually detailed what can be done and what can't be done. The thing about variances is, over the years, many boards of adjustment have said, well, Bill's a nice guy, and
There's a
we
lot
like
of that
him,
going on.
and the neighbor doesn't mind,
It
so
looks nice.
we'll let, yeah, that'll look nice, and we'll let his side yard, we'll let it build right up to the property line, and, you know, and it's not poorly intended.
You guys need to come up here, we're picking on you.
The problem is, when things like that are illegally applied, it really screws things up for the community as a whole in their administration of zoning. In that if the next guy down the road comes and says, well, and maybe he's a real jerk, and everybody knows it, but he says, I want to do that, well, you let him do it just because you like him. You're going to lose in court.
That's right.
You know, that's where...
Hardship definition.
That's exactly right.
Hardship?
The definition of a hardship. You know, and there's a lot of things, and it is listed in here, you know, just something that's maybe not, it's not convenient for him to build a little smaller garage, you know, or whatever. That's not a good reason to grant a variance. Maybe you have a business owner who says, well, if I could build a little bigger building, you know, build all the way out to that, I can get more money for that property. Well, that's not really the responsibility to the city either. You can still make money if you build a smaller building or a smaller office or whatever it is. Must be a very real hardship.
What's a good hardship?
Yeah, tell us.
You know, I
what's
have
a
not,
hardship.
to be honest, I've never heard, and I've gone to a few classes and things, I haven't heard anybody come up with a very, very good one.
What about if there's no garage there presently, and there's only a limited space to put one?
That would be convenience. You know, somebody bought it, say somebody bought a house and it had a tiny little lot. They bought the house, they knew it had a tiny little lot, and didn't have a garage. Well, it might be nice, they might be a nice guy, but if there isn't room to build a garage within the definitions, you know, that are in the zoning ordinance, that's not really a hardship.
So it was a choice.
That was a choice. They bought the property, they knew it.
Sidewalk or a ramp or something, because I can't think of any situation then where it would be.
The only that I've ever heard that...
No.
The only thing that I've ever heard that has been very good, what do I want to say, example, I don't think there's anything here, I wish there was, have been when there was a situation where maybe a physical characteristic of the ground that it sits on was something that nobody knew about. Maybe you bought a lot, you know, say in a housing development. Somebody developed a property, good faith, put in the streets and the roads. Somebody bought a lot, I'm going to build a house on there, and on one quarter of the property there was a spring or a sinkhole or something that unless you let somebody build way over here closer, there's nothing they can do with that property, and they effectively lose all their ability to use that property unless you actually change and say, yes, we can be a little bit variable on that, because this was a situation nobody knew about it, it wasn't intentional on anybody's part, it's just one of those things. We'll give you that variance so that you can move that house over and stay away from that strange characteristic of the property.